please.
If I may remind Hazur, yesterday Hazur has promised us to continue the talk about the 2 signs for the Mahdi of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
I see. Did I come to that?
Yes.
I wanted only to refer to those signs because I have repeatedly said so much about those signs in Liqam al-Arab as well as in other sessions. So the signs are the signs of 2 heavenly bodies, that is the moon and the sun. And these signs have been mentioned in Hadith. One Hadith in particular which speaks of these signs to be these signs to be for the Imam Mahdi of Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now this is a very significant expression. Inna li Mahdiyina ayatayni lam tukuna mundu khalqis samawati wal ard. So I think this is the most important prophecy about the advent of the Imam Mahdi, because this has also been mentioned in the Holy Quran. So those who say that how can we prefer this hadith over other hadith, for them there is enough evidence to silence them that the Quran mention is وَإِذَا
خسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر
خسف القمر والشمس
وجمع الشمس
وجمع بعد में आते, it comes after it. إذا خسف الشمس والقمر خسف الشمس وجمع الشمس والقمر. Please read.
سورة القيامة.
Now when we read the Quran exactly as it is, then people will understand, the first person who has asked this question, that we do not prefer this hadith unnecessarily and make it consider it distinct from all other such hadiths. But we have a strong reason. It takes a bit longer for Imam Sahib.
Yes, I'm just fine. Surah Al-Qiyamah is there.
Surah Al-Qiyamah निकाल दें आखिर पे.
70.
And Qiyamah also indicates the word that there is going to be some big change.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يسأل أيان يوم القيامة فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر يقول الإنسان يومئذ أين المفر. The translation is given here. He asks, when will be the day of resurrection, when the eye is dazzled and the moon is eclipsed and the sun and the moon are brought together. On that day man will say, whither to escape.
Now this translation is faulty. There is no doubt about it. Because when the Qiyamah takes place, who will wash the moon and the sun? You see, everything will go topsy-turvy, everything will be destroyed. And then for any person to say that an al-mafar is not possible. It's simply impossible. So al-Qiyamah here should have been translated the great change, as-sa, because Qiyamah is also translated as sa, when there is a great upheaval in the world. And that upheaval will be in the favor of Islam. So I'll give further argument in favor of my inference. He asks, what will be the time, what will be the day when Qiyamah would take place? You answer such a person. It will take place when Bariq al-Basar, when the eye will be dazzled. You will see things and you will not register them properly. وَإِذَا بَرِقَ الْبَصَرُ وَخَسَفَ الْقَمَرُ وَخَسَفَ الْقَمَرُ, and the sun will be eclipsed. The moon will be eclipsed. Now who can say that the moon will be eclipsed when there will be that day of Qiyamah, when everything will go topsy-turvy? How can the moon get eclipsed at that time? وَجُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرُ, and in this eclipse, sun will join with moon. This description is so clear that it leaves no doubt in one's mind that the description of that Qiyamah which people understand ordinarily to be the end of the world, this Qiyamah is not mentioned here. But over and above this, I remind you that Jesus Christ also prophesied about his advent when similar things will take place. He says, when the sun will cease to give light and the moon will also be darkened. That is the time when he claims he would come again. So this is exactly what the Quran says, and it is saying about the advent of Mahdi, who would also be Masih. So these things are so beautifully well connected that any man who is without prejudice cannot escape the only conclusion that these verses support the Hadith, which says inna lil mahdiyina ayatayn lam takuna min khalqi samawati wal ard. Awwaluha an yankasifa al-qamaru fi awwal laylatin min Ramadana wa tankasifu ash-shamsu fi nisfi minhu. So this entire Hadith in itself is worded in a manner that no liar could have invented such a Hadith. First of all, for Rasulullah to say that it is from me, that Mahdi would be from me. And if na'uz billah min zalik, this was a batil Hadith, how the man could imagine such things which actually came true? Then he is Sadiq, Na'udzubillah min zalik, and Rasulullah is not. So it is only Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who is Sadiq and whose word had to come to pass. So in the light of what has already happened, we cannot draw any other conclusion but that this Hadith is true. It had to be from Rasulullah and from no one else, because he speaks of a distant future when the eclipse of the moon and the eclipse of the sun would take place during the month of Ramadan and during certain dates. But tell me honestly, can any liar predict such a thing? And when you look back at the history of what happened at Qadian in 1894, after Hazrat Masih had claimed to be that Mahdi and that Messiah, then it's impossible to escape this conclusion. This is the mean وَإِذَا بَرِقَ الْبَصَرُ. The Quran says, إِذَا بَرِقَ الْبَصَرُ, people will see and their eyes will be dazzled. They will not be able to, the enemies who do not want to believe, their eyes will be dazzled. And they would not to conclude what they see clearly, and the only conclusion they should draw, they will try to escape that. In 1894, 5 years after the Ahmediyya Jamaat was founded by Hazrat Masih Maud, this sign took place, these two signs took place in the heaven. In the same month of Ramadan, the moon got eclipsed on the 13th, fi awwali laylatin, and the sun got eclipsed on 28th, which is the middle of the eclipse days. So the first and the middle situated exactly in the month of Ramadan, like it was predicted. So we read in the history of Ahmadiyyat that people, the mullahs particularly, after the advent of Hazrat Masih Islam, kept demanding from him these two signs at the loudest of their voices. From their pulpits they cried, where are these two signs if you are the true Mahdi? But when they happened, then they started trying putting forward excuses, lame excuses and meaningless excuses. The fact is that Hazrat Masih knew that this sign was certainly going to happen during Ramadan. So one Ramadan in 1894, the moon got eclipsed on the 13th. Now he was so sure that the sun was bound to follow in its eclipse on the middle of its days of eclipse, that all night Hazrat Masih and many of his followers and many who had come from far off places, he was so sure that this sign would take place that traveled some distance and reached Qadian to be with Masih when Allah shows this sign. They were gathered on the roof of Masjid Mubarak and praying and waiting until the morning broke, and at about 10 o'clock in the morning, a boy came running, shouting, the sun has got eclipsed. It was total eclipse. It was the 28th of the days of sun's eclipse. Can you manufacture these things yourself? You cannot associate any iftara with such things. So the signs appeared in the heaven had been predicted, and Hazrat Masih was proved right, that he was both the Masih and the Mahdi. Please.
Yes, sir.
That khusuf of Qamar is not possible when literally the sun and the moon have got together. The khusuf can only take place when the earth happens to be between the path of the sun's light and the moon. Only then moon can get eclipsed. So how can khasaf take place when literally moon and sun were brought together? And when they were brought together, if people were not seeing, what does khasaf, bariqal basar mean? It's impossible. The eye has lost its sight, and yet they are seeing. So that means that the eye is dazzled.